We are in week 5 of the Tachyon Draft League now, and your Ontario Place Serene Grace are still undefeated, but this week we're going up against Josh, which is the really tough opponent that I was worried about last week. The main reason I'm worried about this match was because he had a core of Ursaluna, Primarina, and Kilowattrel, which is really good into all of my teams. Specifically, Kilowattrel can hit all of my guys for super effective damage. With air slash and discharge. He was a big threat against all of my offensive threats. And Ursaluna um, is also really scary after it can get the burn. He can take out most of my guys in one hit, and Primarina especially can hit most of my Pokemon for super effective or neutral damage, and I don't have any good answers to hit it for anything super effective. I don't have a good way to take him out in one hit, and I don't have great ways of taking him out with setup. So I was really worried about Primarina getting set up or having Kilowattrel just do too much damage in the beginning, and then I wouldn't be able to recover from that. He also had Trevenant, which was a concern because I'd had trouble taking him out in one hit as well as Morgrem, which is really bulky, able to set up screens, able to be a Pokemon that can trick an ability shield onto one of mine. So I put a lot of time into what the lead would be to be able to take out Primarina, and what the end game was going to be what the lead would be to take out Ursaluna, and what the end game would be to take out Primarina. The plan I came up with was to lead with Murkrow and Slaking, and pivot the Murkrow into Weezing and have Gholdengo in afterwards. The backup plan would have been to have Weezing and Slaking and Dondozo and Tatsugiri, but the primary plan was to have Murkrow and Slaking in to be able to take out all of their leads, which I mainly thought would be potentially Kilowattrel, potentially Ursaluna, potentially Espathra. I needed options into all of those, and especially potentially Morgrem. So I'll go over all of those plans in a little bit, but let's talk about the Pokemon first. For Murkrow, Murkrow is the main Pokemon on this team that everything was built around. So I gave Murkrow Tailwind to set up Tailwind on turn 1 and make all of my Pokemon outspeed all of his. The good thing about his team is that he doesn't have great speed control. The only way that he can get Tailwind up is Vivillon, which doesn't have priority and isn't particularly fast, or Kilowattrel, which means that Kilowattrel is not bringing a damage item. So I thought that I could get Tailwind up reliably with Murkrow and then take a hit with Focus Sash, and have speed control on the second turn. For Murkrow's other attacks, I gave him Foul Play so that I had options into Ursaluna, especially if Ursaluna Swords Dance, then Foul Play has a good chance of taking it out. And if I Terra Dark with Foul Play, then I'm guaranteed to take out +2 Ursaluna in one hit. He has U-Turn and he has some attack here because I EV'd it so that one U-Turn and a low kick from Slaking would take out Ursaluna, and that was my game plan, to try to take out Ursaluna after it gets burned. I had initially looked at Feint and then low kick, but that would mean I'd have to bring Scyther, and Scyther was really just not good enough into Kilowattrel. I had to bring Murkrow because Murkrow would be able to have priority, and that seemed like it would be more reliable. Other than that, I gave it a lot of defense instead of HP. Even though I'm not surviving anything, I gave it enough defense to be able to survive a Fake Out and an unboosted Facade, so that if that was what happened on turn 1 with a Fake Out from Morgrem and an unboosted Facade from Ursaluna, then I'd still be able to execute my game plan of having Tailwind up and surviving the turn to be able to U-turn myself out. The partner beside Murkrow the next turn was going to be Slaking. I gave it Life Orb because a lot of his moves really needed Life Orb to be able to get the kills. He has Ice Punch so that I have a move to take out Kilowattrel without taking recoil. Otherwise, I'd be doing way too much recoil into myself with Double Edge, and I wouldn't be able to survive on the subsequent turns. Life Orb also gives me good options to use against Trevenant, and a safe option to use against something I think is Zoroark, even though it doesn't take out Zoroark, because Knockoff wasn't enough to take out Kilowattrel. I needed it to be Ice Punch specifically. Low Kick is there specifically just against Ursaluna to be able to take out Ursaluna with one hit along with a U-turn. Double Edge is otherwise the main damaging move. Importantly, it does take out Primarina in one hit, and it does most damage into Morgrem. It is possible to survive as a Morgrem, but some Morgrem do go down to Double Edge. His speed was set at 131, so it's one speed faster than Gholdengo, meaning I'd be able to use Brick Rake and then have Gholdengo go afterwards. But otherwise, the speed was set so that it can outspeed all of their team under Tailwind, and it can also outspeed a +1 speed Espathra. I had Knockoff for a long time, but it didn't work into Kilowattrel, so I had to drop it and bring Ice Punch, which means I don't have a way to take out Zoroark in one hit. I'm just going to have to play through it if that ever comes out. The next important partner for Slaking was Weezing. So Weezing this week came with Terra Flying to be able to dodge Headlong Rush in case I thought one was coming toward me, but otherwise he's EV'd with a lot of defenses so that he can survive one hit from basically everyone, including a Facade when Ursaluna is burned. So he doesn't die to Headlong Rush, he doesn't die to Facade, he doesn't die to any of the special attacks. He can always survive one hit, and then he can either get up a defog if he needs to, or put some damage on someone, and mainly just survive another hit so that Slaking can get another turn. 91 speed was enough to outspeed everyone except for Zoroark or faster under Tailwind, and it also was just enough to outspeed a neutral Morgrem, because I didn't think speed would be going on that. And then next we have Gholdengo. Gholdengo was set with enough speed to outspeed everyone, but still be slower than Slaking, so that Slaking would be able to take out screens if he needed to. And I needed Gholdengo to be able to Nasty Plot, so I couldn't give him a choice item. He had to have just Metal Coat. There's nothing important that Metal Coat gave me the ability to survive, but he just couldn't have a choice item, and Life Orb was already taken. Thunderbolt is there for Primarina, but none of my attacks really had a way to one-shot anything, including Thunderbolt into Primarina. So because I would need to get a Nasty Plot up to be able to do any damage to anyone to one-shot them, I didn't have to max out the special attack. I could put the rest of it into bulk and just give him a good amount of bulk. He needed to get one Nasty Plot up. For Dondozo, the game plan was really never to bring Dondozo because Tatsugiri is just so bad into the rest of their team. The game plan was really to rely on the Murkrow and Slaking and potentially bring the Dondozo if I was going to bring a Weezing Slaking lead. But I never really saw a situation where that would ever come up. Anyway, for his moves, he has Wave Crash as his main damaging move. He has Terra Blast Flying that lets me take out Trevenant, and he has Heavy Slam that can take out the Primarina sometimes. The only question was really if I'm going to bring Heavy Slam or if I'm going to bring Crunch for Trevenant, because the two Haze Pokemon were Primarina or Trevenant. And so I had to prioritize doing more damage into Primarina because the logic was Tatsugiri can maybe take out Trevenant, but Tatsugiri cannot do anything into Primarina. Tatsugiri basically can't do any damage into Primarina at all. So I had to prioritize being able to take out Primarina with Heavy Slam, and if I don't have the Terra to use Terra Flying into the Trevenant, then Tatsugiri just has to give his best shot. But having access to Heavy Slam to do bigger damage into Primarina was a higher priority. For Tatsugiri, really, he's kind of useless, and he's here as a one Mirror Coat guy. He has a Rosalie Berry so that he can survive one Moonblast and then hopefully Mirror Coat it back. But otherwise, the moves are not that useful. Draco Meteor is there so that it can go into Trevenant. Counter is there so that it might be able to go into Trevenant. He has just enough speed to outspeed a Trevenant if he is going to be going first, so that he can potentially shoot 2 Draco Meteors at him. But realistically, he was not going to be surviving anything, so there was no point giving him any more bulk. He's there to live 1 hit from anyone and then counter it back, or he's there to take out specifically Trevenant. So let's get into the games. I took a look at his team, and the first thing that I see is that he has brought Kilowattrel and Ursaluna like I thought. He has Morgrem, which is going to be a big problem, but he doesn't have Primarina, which I actually thought was the biggest problem on his team. So it's a good sign that he doesn't have that. He does have Vivillon, which I didn't really sufficiently prepare into. I just assumed I'd be able to outspeed it and figure out a game plan from there. So I thought that his initial leads were going to be perhaps Ursaluna and Kilowattrel, or if he led Morgrem, then we were going to have more problems. I also saw that he didn't run any Terra Ghost, so Ursaluna didn't have Terra Ghost, which was a really good sign because my game plan kind of falls apart if Ursaluna has Terra Ghost, because I can't do the U-turn and low kick into it. So first turn, we have Murkrow Slaking against Kilowattrel and Espathra, which is a little bit unexpected here. I expected him to have an Ursaluna lead, so I don't have a great plan into an Espathra lead. I immediately see that Espathra doesn't have speed boost, it has Frisk, so he knows my items, but it's not really anything important. My idea here is that I can take out Kilowattrel with Ice Punch at any time, so Kilowattrel is not really a threat. Kilowattrel can bring Murkrow to Sash, but he can't really do anything else. Espathra is the biggest threat on the board here because he's trying to get Trick Room up. So I have to target Espathra with my first turn. So I target it with Double Edge, and thankfully it goes down. We see Kilowattrel go for Murkrow with Volt Switch, so Kilowattrel switches itself out and brings in Ursaluna, and Ursaluna gets burned right away, and then Kilowattrel comes back in. Because I see Ursaluna, he's already burned. I don't think he's going to go for a Protect, so I have to go with my game plan, which is to U-turn and low kick into Ursaluna. If Ursaluna is open, then that's the entire game plan with Murkrow. So I just go for it. I have to bring in Weezing this turn anyway, so that Slaking can even get a turn. And thankfully, the low kick U-turn plan works exactly as I wanted to. Kilowattrel gets a discharge off and gets really good damage onto Weezing, but I still survive the turn, and I'm alive to play the next one. I have Ice Punch for Kilowattrel exactly for this, so I can go for it. I know that I outspeed everything because I have Tailwind up, and so I get to take out Kilowattrel right away. And then I just put damage on Trevenant here, and Trevenant disappears. I've already taken out 3 of his Pokemon, so there's really nothing that he can do anymore. The game is essentially just over. He uses Phantom Force last, so he's targeting Weezing. He's definitely not targeting Slaking. There's nothing I can do to protect the Weezing. So I kind of just burn a turn, let Weezing go down safely. And then I bring in Gholdengo because I know that Gholdengo can take out the Trevenant. At this point, because I was ahead, I could have switched out the Weezing into the Murkrow, but the Weezing was going to go down anyway, and the Murkrow was also going to go down. And I really didn't want Gholdengo to take the damage here. So at least having Gholdengo come in for free after a Weezing lets it get the attack off safely. So game one is won. The game plan was executed about as well as I'd planned. I didn't see Primarina, so the only reason to ever consider bringing in another one of these guys would be if the game plan went wrong. So I just stick with what I have and go into game 2. I have the same leads. I still think that the leads are working. I have a game plan for Morgrem if Morgrem comes in. So I bring out the exact same leads. He brings out Morgrem. The risk here is that Vivillon is going to use a sleep powder. So I still have to get my exact same game plan up. And I try to take out Vivillon because I think that Vivillon is the biggest threat here. So that means Morgrem gets a free screen up. And now I'm not in the best spot because I'm out of my preparation. So I decide that I want to hard switch into Weezing because I couldn't really risk my U-turn getting blocked. So I hard switch into Weezing. I go for the double edge again against Vivillon, but I didn't account for Vivillon potentially being Steel Terra. So Vivillon survives, then Vivillon gets the sleep powder off, and then Morgrem gets a second screen up, which is not the biggest deal. As long as Morgrem doesn't get a trick ability shield out, I'm still in an okay spot here. Next turn, I go for Strange Steam into Morgrem because it's going to do the most damage out of whatever I have, and I know that Ursaluna here is not burned yet, so I'm just waiting for Slaking to try to wake up here. Now Ursaluna is burned, but I still know that I survive one hit from Ursaluna when it's burned. At this point, it's a good enough time to get rid of the screens, so I still have Tailwind up. I get rid of the screens by targeting Ursaluna because I don't know what Morgrem is going to do. And so I can get rid of those screens, which is really helpful for me. And then Ursaluna goes for Earthquake, gets good damage out. Slaking's still asleep. And I'm just waiting for Slaking to wake up here. How many turns have we got? This is Slaking's second turn of sleep. And I'm really lucky here that Slaking gets to wake up and gets the low kick off onto Ursaluna, taking it out. If Slaking hadn't woken up here, then I'd be in a lot more trouble. So Slaking takes itself out. And then I still have a turn, and I take out Morgrem because I somehow just outspeed Morgrem normally. I still have Murkrow in at full health, so I can get a new Tailwind up, and all that he has left is Vivillon and Kilowattrel. All I'm trying to do here is get a new Tailwind up. So I don't have Prankster anymore, but I still survive the hit from Sash, and I have the new Tailwind up. Now I swap out the Murkrow to get in Gholdengo. I know I'm going to survive. I'm glad that I survive here with Weezing. I'm glad that I gave him enough bulk. So I know that I survive all of these hits with Gholdengo, and Vivillon's not really a threat. I don't have good as Gold anymore, but I know that I can take out at least the Vivillon. The Kilowattrel here actually takes out Vivillon for me. And then I put good damage on. This is a very scary turn, actually, because I can still lose if I get paralyzed. And I do get paralyzed. But now I have Murkrow in. I'm glad that I have a damaging move here on Murkrow that's reliable in foul play, so I'm able to take out Kilowattrel. And with that, your Ontario Play Serene Grace go up to 4-0, and I haven't dropped a game at all in this whole league. The next week is against Aerisubmerges and his Archelodon. So the game plan there looks a little bit more straightforward. I do want to talk about the Morgrem lead that I prepared so much for a little bit more. Morgrem was really scary because it has access to Fake Out, it has access to Trick, and it can put up these screens. So if Morgrem was going to be using Fake Out, I needed a better plan into it, because if Morgrem could potentially Fake Out the Slaking, and then Slaking would be taking big damage from Ursaluna or from Kilowattrel. Morgrem could also do a Fake Out and let Ursaluna get a Swords Dance up. So part of my game plan against Morgrem